Hi, I'm Isabel Coletti. I'm in Professor Graves' Lang 120 class, and my project or presentation will be the narratives in ethnographies. So what is an ethnography? An ethnography is the research paper or scholarly writing that an anthropologist would do after fully immersing themselves within a culture. They write about their experience, and then they talk about maybe a conclusion they came to based off of this. So the narrative is the story of the anthropologist when he first comes into the culture, how he interacts with people, because it's more than just the facts of like what the culture wears, what their religion is. It is more about like the social aspect of a culture, you know, what really makes it unique. So Bronisław Malinowski is one of the first one to introduce the narrative. Before they would try to do detached kind of observations of a culture, and often it was done by like white guys, so they were often probably patronizing, like they don't know what they're doing, but they're running around without clothes on. He talked about how you need to actually immerse yourself into the culture, you know, interact, and become kind of not like one of them, because you're always going to be kind of not there, but really understand what their culture is about, what they value. So why a narrative? This is actually a quote from Malinowski. His whole introductory paragraph is kind of a how-to do like an ethnography. He talks about how you would never in chemistry or physics, you know, not talk about all the things you did in an experiment when writing a research paper. So in a less exact science like ethnographies, you would try to do the same thing, you know, the length of time devoted or the observations that were made and what the manner of the observations were, and that's where the narrative comes into play. You talk about a story, how you got there. Often, with these stories, this is from Malinowski again, is what it was like when you first got there, how you were an outsider. And then your narrative usually can slowly develop into how you became trusted by the culture, and often this explains what the culture values, what they wanted to see from an outsider to really accept. And so the stories also provide credibility. You know, as a reader, you want to see that what you're reading, the author is actually well like researched. That's why a lot of authors quote other people, like, yes, I did research, these are other things I found. It's the same with the narrative. You know, you talk about, yeah, I was actually there, I actually talked to people, and this is why I came to these conclusions based off these observations. This guy, Geertz, talks about cockfighting in Bali and how it was like a really big part of their culture and their masculinity, and this is why men like devoted so much time to their roosters. And it's funny because, well, right now I'm showing how he first got there and nobody accepted him. It wasn't until he joined the people running away from the cops after a cockfight that the culture was like, yeah, you're one of us, you know, you're running from the law and fighting chickens. This is actually our own Professor Woods of anthropology. He went to Gabra, or the Gabra tribe, and his research or claim was that, like, he really wanted to know why, what nomadic tribes thought about boundaries. A lot of companies were coming in, drilling for oil, and what the people thought. And so the best way to conduct that research, instead of saying, like, I asked this and this was this, is he talked about the story, how the people began to trust him, you know, what he observed, what the people were doing, interacting with the oil companies, how they saw themselves as a nomadic tribe. And so the narrative becomes very important in understanding the research and fieldwork done, and the opinions of the anthropologists themselves. So for example, freshman culture. Last year, throwing bananas places weren't a thing. People ate bananas. But this year, it seems like people like to leave bananas places, especially on top of the Mills dorm building. And so you could just say, well, you're just saying that. But if I gave a narrative of my own experience, it might be more credible, and it would also come to be like, why do you think they leave bananas everywhere? Well, this is one of my pictures. It's almost off campus, but like right on the edge, someone's like, yeah, I'm going to leave a banana there. And so my narrative would be, one day after work, I'm driving up and I'm parking because I have to run to my dorm room before I park my car somewhere where I won't get a ticket. And it's kind of dark because it gets dark really soon now. And so there's these girls, like, and they're about to throw a banana on top of Mills, and then they look at me because I got my brights on, like right out on them, like I caught them on the spot. And I said, do it. Like, I don't care. And so they did. And that's where I kind of learned, like, wow, this is really a thing. People are really throwing bananas places. So that is my example, something you guys might more understand on where I'm going, where the narrative really helps the credibility of the author come to the conclusion where people don't eat bananas anymore if you're at UNCA, and that's my conclusion. All right, thank you. Any questions about where these bananas are going?
You think it's like a metaphor, or like what's going on there?
What, with the bananas?
Yeah, like
I don't know. I'm not a freshman anymore. You don't get it either? Yeah, I mean, like, why even have them if you're not going to eat them? Decoration. All right.
very